It is the Delicious Recap, our weekly revisit of the 90s sitcom Family Matters. I'm Jon Francois.
Hola, today I'm Little Richie.
I had a feeling you might be a little Richie. Why is that? Was he just too cute to resist in this episode?
And he was, and he gave us choreo. He gave us early Blue Ivy, like hit his marks, knew exactly what he was doing, and the cutest little outfit.
So, as someone who's not a Beyonce stan like you are, I have no idea what you're talking about, but I'm gonna question you on that later on. I have thoughts about the way Little Richie was placed in this episode. We are talking about season 2, episode 4, Flashpants, original air date October 5th, 1990, written by Stephen Langford, who we've been in touch with, and we're hoping he can come to the podcast at some point. Directed by Jaren Keith. I don't know. It's a G. What do you think? It's Garen or Jaren?
I think it's Garen. I was looking at the person's name on the IMDb, and I'm like, I think it's Garen.
How about G Keith, just for slang?
Ooh, Gigi, you sound like a very, very dangerous rapper.
Yeah, a dangerous rapper, a very hip hoppity 90s R&B star who got into a little bit too much trouble. I like Mike G Keith.
He gave himself to Christ. That's why he's Gigi. We see it.
One of the many 90s rappers or R&B artists who became a born-again Christian in the 2000s, I'm guessing. So praise the Lord, G Keith. Praise the Lord. We love you. Steve Vinovich is one of our guest stars as the Master of Ceremonies. So I can confirm via email that Steve is interested in coming on the show, and we will try to figure out scheduling. I mean, as we are recording this in August, I suggested October to him, so that's awesome. We'll get Steve on the show at some point. Kathy Susan Plies. This is what's confusing. Do you remember someone named Helen or Ellen in the show?
I think it was Helen. That was Helen, not her name.
So if we're talking about Charlie Carnelli, right?
Yeah,
I watched this episode today. I apologize. I don't even know what the last name is. I think it's
you're right.
Carnelli.
Charlie Carnelli, because I kept saying Carnelli and then somebody else.
Okay, yeah. Charlie Carnelli, and as far as his wife who was dancing with him, I could have sworn the subtitle said Ellen Carnelli, because I don't remember a Helen otherwise. So it's possible that IMDb could have gotten it wrong because they say Helen with an H, and on the show it says Ellen, Ellen. So we'll see. I mean, Mrs. Cardoni or Cardini, maybe the easiest way to refer to her.
That's how we'll refer to her. Maybe there was a mistake in the actual saying the lines during the recording, and they got stuck with Helen and with Ellen instead of Helen.
I probably. And finally, we have Eddie Mecca as Charlie, who unfortunately passed away, I think, back in 2021. So, rest in peace. You gave us quite a character. I mean, I'm sure he's a good guy in real life, but, I was in love with Charlie. Our Hulu synopsis is Harriet and Carl Winslow compete in a dance contest. Here's where I got confused with Carl's police captain and his wife. I thought the way Harriet was referencing things, it seemed like the police captain was somebody else, and Charlie Carnelli was just somebody who worked in Carl's precinct. Am I wrong on that?
I thought Charlie was just another officer.
Yeah.
I didn't think he was the police chief.
More confusion is happening. I have no idea. Both men injure themselves, but insist on continuing. So again, Hulu likes to spoil the whole story for us. And that is unfortunate if you are listening and you have not watched the episode and you're kind of following along with us. So I'm sorry. We just gave away the end, and now you can just delete the episode. We're terrible people.
If you're listening to this now and that was a spoiler for you, you didn't want to watch the show. It's been out for 30 plus years.
This is true. This is true. All right, before we dive into everything, I mean, we have first of all, we have our rating system that we usually do during the recap, and then we'll explain our delicious stars as we get to the end of the recap. So do you mind explaining, Andrew, how our rating system works for anyone who is not familiar?
For you who are not familiar, you should be ashamed of yourself.
I was going to say the same thing. Shame on you.
So our rating system, two things that we're going to do as we go through the show. We're going to call out our portions of the meal that we like, because this is tasty TV here. So our appetizer, what drew you into this episode? Our entree or your main course, what really filled you up and made you feel good? Our desserts, what were the gems that really stuck out to you in this episode? And then the junk food, that's just stuff that you can just throw away. Send it back to the kitchen. It wasn't worth it in the episode, but we had it. And then at the end, we can rate our entire meal with 3 stars, all based on the quality of our product. So how do you feel about the episode? How was it produced? The mastery of the line delivery and emotion, which I think we got the best of it ever in this episode, but I'm not
Yeah.
going to get off track.
Okay.
It's so good. Personality and vibe of the cast and the producer and the characters. Was it worth our time watching? And do we have any common grounds? Did me and you relate to something on this episode where it's like, oh, okay, we can see this as being something that was really good or something that was very, very bad?
All right. Let's do it.
Yeah,
Let's dive in.
let's do it.
We get into the cold open in the kitchen. Your thoughts on that?
Okay, so I only have one thought on the entire cold opening. Steve has magic powers.
Yeah. Yeah, you're talking about when he goes from like stalking Laura at the back porch door to stalking her at the front door. Yeah, I knew they were going to do that. I knew they were going to do that.
Yes, it's the second time they've done this gag, but the first time Steve was noticeably out of breath. This time Steve just instantly appeared at the door, and I'm like, oh, Stefan, we've got early appearance of you.
Yeah. Oh, wait. Remind me, does Stefan start off as a science experiment that just pops up all over the place? Is that what you're talking about?
He starts as a science experiment, I think a little like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, or like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Fine, something
Okay.
like that.
I like that. So if I recall correctly, the cold open, it begins with Laura coming downstairs to the kitchen and, asking Eddie if she knows where Steve is. And automatically, did you notice that Eddie had this jean colored outfit from head to toe, like button down pants, like it was all jean, jean, jean?
But yeah, did you have one of those as a kid?
No, and I don't think I would ever have wanted that at all. I like jorts I could do, but I was never somebody who wore a jean thing as a top. I never wore a jean pattern top. Did you?
I had multiple jean suits. I had multiple of them. You know, your jean jacket, your pants, your vest. It's all jean. You have it.
Okay, so that iconic picture of Britney Spears and Justin Timberlake in their matching jean outfits, was that you, like fusion into one person? Like that was you?
Oh, that was commonplace for us in our childhood. If you didn't have a jean suit, you were out of like the cool kids. You had to have it all jean something.
Oh my God. Well, it may be coming back. Who knows? And when Laura wants to know where Steve is, because like Steve is stalking her, trying to get her to walk to work with him. She's trying to avoid him. I wonder if you thought it wouldn't have made more sense for Laura to just like speed out the door from the beginning of the cold open rather than take the time to ask Eddie where Steve was. Like I felt like she was jinxing herself by dragging her feet on that.
She really was. But at this point, get a restraining order. The fact that you have to ask somebody where this individual is, get a restraining order, girl. It's not safe.
Yeah, yeah. And as you just mentioned, I mean, Steve does have magic powers. Just as I was suggesting that Laura exit out the front door as I was watching this episode in real time, of course, when she makes a run for the front door, that's where Steve pops up. And as much as I don't condone Steve's stalking work walk request, again, funny lines, he knows how to deliver them. I think the way he delivered, "Oh, it's no trouble, my little babushka," like when Laura was trying to, nice him down and say like, "Oh, no, it's okay, Steve. I don't need to walk to work. I can do it myself." Yeah, he just had a pervy eyebrow raise. He had a smile that was funny during that little "my babushka" line, and I loved it. Do you know what the word babushka means?
Okay, so I don't know what it means, and I know that this is probably wrong, but is it that soup that's cold?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
So Steve doesn't know what he's talking about because there are two definitions of babushka according to Bing. One, it refers to an old woman or grandmother. Two, it refers to a headscarf tied under the chin of Polish and Russian women. So Steve is either calling Laura his little old woman or his little headscarf.
Okay, I mean, I would like to be a babushka. If somebody said that to me, I'd be like, "Ooh, I feel so like cute."
I would think that Steve meant headscarf because headscarf is like seems like a very comforting, warm thing during the winter. Like you wear it around your neck. Like old woman, it's like If we're going under the stereotypical notion that women don't like to be called out for being old, then yeah, I'm gonna guess that he means headscarf.
Okay, I can understand headscarf now that you said it. Because I'm like, wait, why would he call her a headscarf? But there's companionship there.
Yeah, yeah. How many times have you been friends with your headscarf when no real human would be your friend?
Me and my headscarf, it better not ever open its mouth.
Okay, wait. So your headscarf is your friend that you want to be silent in a sort of kinky way?
No, I want it to be silent and never tell anybody the things that it's seen.
Oh
Mm-mm.
wow. All right. So the headscarf is like sort of a witness. What do we call that thing? Witness in charge, a witness protection program person? Witness
Y-
protection program. Sure.
Yes, my scarf is in witness protection program. It knows to keep quiet.
There you go. And lastly, my last note about this cold open, Laura giving into Steve, not the message that we want to send, of course, when you're dealing with a persistent stalker, because her dad is a cop. He could take care of this problem. That.
Very easily, we have Laura agreeing to stalking. It's not funny.
And then we go back into the kitchen for scene one. Any thoughts on that scene?
Um, I actually like this little scene here. This is my first dessert. And just a head note here, y'all, you're gonna hear me label a lot of desserts in this episode.
Yeah.
Um, so this is a little dessert scene for me. I just love that we got all the kids, we got Rachel, we got little Richie, and he's looking through the newspaper, and he says the cutest thing about stocks. He's just like, get toys.
Yes. So I think Rachel, yeah, she was like playfully asking Richie if he was like looking through stocks, and he was looking. Did he say that he was looking at stocks, or was he just saying that he was looking at toys in the newspaper?
So Eddie said little Richie was looking at stocks. Rachel's like, oh, do you have any ideas of like any hits or tips? And little Richie just says toys. And it's the cutest line ever. And then she's like, oh, you want me to get toy stocking? He's like, no, just toys.
Now, I was wondering what maybe I'm being too literal about this. Was Little Richie like maybe he was reading a comic strip in the newspaper? Because I know that those were a thing, and if not that, then he must have been pretend reading a very boring article, which is something I find very hard to believe that a preschool age kid would do.
I was that nerdy kid. I loved reading like the stock market column because it was squares and numbers. And I was like, ooh, who's got the biggest number today? I didn't understand it, but I'm gonna go with little Richie being so smart that he is invested and prudently funded.
From the get-go, he is setting up for his financial future. So props to that kid. Fashion note, Laura and Eddie, the way the color of their clothing blended with the, I would say, caramel wood colored kitchen, that's what popped out to me from the get-go of this scene. I think Laura was wearing a yellow shirt and Eddie was wearing like a light brownish shirt. And I don't know, my eye just gleaned toward how it was maybe matching up with the kitchen wood. It was an interesting texture.
I am very happy you mentioned that because that's my second dessert. The color scheme in this episode, in this scene alone, I love how everybody's dressed. Everybody's color palette plays off of each other. Like if you look at a color wheel, they're all opposites of each other, so it looks good.
Hmm.
And I just loved the fashion in this episode. I thought was very cute, particularly for Eddie.
Yeah. Well, I have a fashion note for Eddie later on that really put a lot of question marks in my head. Speaking of a fashion note, though, in this scene, Harriet wears a flight attendant style outfit that I feel like didn't she wear that in the first season?
She did. She did. She wore that in the first season, and we called her a school teacher.
Yeah. Was it the second episode where she was trying to get a job? I feel like she was wearing that like on the way to the interview.
I think she wore that to the interview where she went off on the guy.
Yeah, the manager of the Chronicle. Yeah. Okay, okay. Interesting. And my appetizers in this scene. So Carl comes in, he has this ballroom dance invitation entrance. He's like, Harriet, come dance with me, my little munchka. That's another way of saying babushka. And then, they're just doing the dance around the kitchen and I love how the kids and Rachel, they just get up from their seats, they back away like, Bigfoot is dancing and they don't want to get killed.
Did you notice Laura got stuck in the scene? I think she missed her mark.
Oh, really?
So as they're like trying to get past where Laura is at the edge of the table against the far right wall of the stage, I want to say it is,
Hmm.
she gets stuck in the chair. Harriet and Carl are trying to maneuver around the table, and Laura kind of hesitates to move around them. It's so clunky but funny. I rewatched it like 40 times because I was like, oh, this is so interesting.
Yeah, Kelly just apparently didn't remember what she was taught during rehearsal, so she was just kind of awkwardly maneuvering, trying to make it natural in front of the studio audience. And then this is where we find out that Carl and Harriet, they are participating in the annual Policeman's Memorial Foundation dance contest again, and the rest of the family isn't happy because they're assigned to sell tickets. And I kind of agree with them. What are your thoughts on that? Because I feel like someone at the foundation should assign someone to professionally take care of that. Like, this reminds me of when my mom had to like assign me to help one of my siblings sell like those bake sale cookies at school. You know, where it always came with the brochure or the magazine, and you had to go to the doorstep of somebody. It kind of reminds me of that.
It it does feel like that, but it feels like that in a very, I want to say like frustrating way
Mm.
because this isn't the kids doing this for like a school project or something. We're doing this so you can go dance. All of the police officers should be selling the tickets. Make them more approachable, make them personable. If you want us to come to an event for you, talk to me about the event and who you are.
That's a good point. Yeah, like tell me why it's important to donate to the Policeman's Foundation. Well, in 2024, I mean, that's going to be a hard sell, but still in 1990, like I need to know. What about the police force operation in Chicago should I be donating more to? Um, just give me information. Anything else about this scene that you liked?
No, we nailed it with the kids, Harriet dancing with Carl. Yeah, that was it for me in this scene. This scene was like very short but perfect for everything we needed.
Yeah, just a couple more points for me. When Eddie says he'd rather do a swan dive on a cactus than sell tickets, I felt like that was very detailed and maybe too clever of a line for Eddie. I was kind of shocked that he had that wordplay in him.
He had some good wordplay. You know what? You just gave me another dessert that I didn't think about. The writing for this episode with the little jokes that kind of sneak in here are very good.
They are. And lastly, Laura tells Carl it's depressing watching people his age do the lambada, Lambada. Now, out of curiosity, I looked up the definition of lambada. I was quite surprised to find that it is a fast, erotic Brazilian dance that couples perform with their stomachs touching. They touch their stomachs together, Andrew, and babies happen.
Oh, so now I know what you straights do. So it's just a bunch of stomach rubbing.
That's all. Yeah, right. I mean, you would think that the queer community can do the same thing, but no. Apparently, the Lord is like, nope. The queer people have to try to touch their toes.
We got to do it the hard way. You guys get to have fun.
I guess we just got to rub our stomachs together like some kind of weird Jello experiment. Mm-mm-mm. What an imagery. Shall we move on to scene two?
Yes, because I will never think of Jello the same again.
I know. Living room. What are your thoughts about this scene?
So I personally love this little scene here. When Carl comes home from work, have you ever had a moment like that where you just walk in through the front door and as soon as you're in your house, you just lose it?
Literally, the moment this scene started, I was laughing out loud. If there's anybody who knows how to put on the most funny, animated, quiet temper tantrum, it's Reginald VelJohnson as Carl Winslow. This was great. This was literally my first note. It was great.
It was great. This was so great. It was relatable. It was a funny moment. The audience in this scene, and from this point forward through the rest of the episode, they are super invested. I think Carl snatched them in with his physical humor because you
Hmm.
just notice they get funnier and louder throughout the scene as it goes on. So I love the beginning part of it. Um, then we get to find out Carl's dealing with a one-upper at work. So this, I wanted this to be my main like course, but it's like more of an appetizer
Hmm.
because I wish we got to see the one-upping in action.
Really? And do you mind telling more?
I would have loved it where Carl's like, oh, there's this guy at work. He's such a dick, and he's always doing something better than me. He can tell me everything. And then we get a scene of him and this other guy at the precinct going into like a police officers meeting, and then he's one-upping him the whole time. I would have loved that.
All right, that could have been an interesting thing. Um, yeah, but as you had mentioned, going back to Carl's temper tantrum, I mean, he just making all these sorts of noises with his mouth, and then he just struggles to take off his policeman's jacket, and then he ends up like stomping it on the ground. Audience, I hear, was clearly enjoying it. If you remember Harriet's response after all that performance, "Have a nice day." And if I were Carl, I would have been pissed, but as an audience member, I was just loving it. It was a great response from Harriet.
It was the perfect response.
Yeah.
I would have had to laugh.
Yeah. And another ace from Harriet, I think when Carl frustratingly says, "I took that jacket down a peg or two," loved Harriet's response. She was just like, "Oh, well, come on upstairs with me because I've got a sweater that's been giving me a lot of trouble."
Harriet is invested in her man.
Yes. And I think we're getting another example, another fashion note of Harriet being like mom doing housework in the fall. Like, did you catch her shirt here? She had a rolled up sleeve, button down yellow shirt with rhombuses on them. The rhombuses return.
She's being creative. We've never seen rhombuses, John, ever in this show. We've only seen quadrilaterals, but she is just amazing in this. I kind of like her dressed down mom look, where she kind of looks like she'd be going to the grocery store. She could be a soccer mom, but I kind of like this one.
It's realistic because remember, like first season, all we were talking about was why is Harriet always dressing in the house as if she's going out somewhere? So now that she's like casual and dressed like a mom would be dressed in the fall, it's just all the more endearing. You had talked about how, Carl was complaining about the one-upmanship with Charlie. He was complaining about how much of a jackass Charlie Carnelli is at the precinct, bragging about how he could do this better than Carl, that better than Carl. And just hearing the word jackass, it just reminds me of how fascinated I am that, like, I hear that in TV shows, old and new, all the time, as if it's not a curse word, but yet if you use the word ass, that can be risky. Like, have you noticed that? And have you wondered, like, why that is?
I've noticed it, and I don't know if you have this experience. Anytime I hear somebody use the word jackass, I'm like, oh, you go to church. Like, I know you are Christian because you say jackass. You just call him an ass.
Yeah.
So it is kind of a curse word, but then, I mean, by the definition, it's just a donkey.
But ass on its own, like here's the thing, ass on its own is considered a donkey. In the Bible, I remember in the Bible back in school, a very private Christian elementary school I went to, where we could only use the word ass if we were reading it from the Bible in reference to a donkey. But if we were, using it outside of the Bible to refer to, I don't know, Miss Pringle's butt, like that's probably not appropriate.
I can see you now, John, in Christian school, like, said Jesus said ass.
That means booty. Oh, Jesus liked that ass, didn't he? He liked that Mary Magdalene ass. Oh boy. Hey, answers.com, by the way, considers jackass a curse word. Just let it be known. So it is a curse word, but I guess it's maybe the only acceptable curse word that you can use amongst anybody in the Christian universe.
Yes, it is the word of curse, but they can use it.
Harriet telling Carl to sit down and explain why he's in a bad mood, and then Carl just immediately gets up to go into his rant. That was a great comic moment. And did you catch Carl's 70s talk? His line, 2 weeks in, this turkey transfers from the South Side. I thought he was a goober from the get-go. I was just hearing so much like talk that I feel like could be used in Sanford and Son. And did you know what goober meant?
I don't know what that means. The only thing I know for goober is like it's a Republican thing.
It's two definitions, again, like babushka. It's either a peanut or a dated reference referring to someone from the southeastern U.S., especially Georgia or Arkansas. So yeah, technically, given that there are a lot of Republicans in the South, you could call them goobers.
Oh my God, is that why it's Goober National?
Goober National?
Whoa. Goober National. It's like some like Republican convention or something, and they go by that, and it's down in Georgia. John, you just broke the internet.
I did. Damn you, goobers. I'll see you Friday, whatever that means. So during Carl's one-upmanship with Charlie, just ranting about how Charlie wants to compete in everything, including like how Charlie he talks about how he could burp the longest. Have you ever done that as a kid? Have you ever indulged in burping contests?
I find belching to be very uncouth. I don't support it. And I will not besmirch my name with that activity. I literally did never do it as a kid.
And that's okay because personally, I've always felt that to be physically uncomfortable. Just the idea of like, because sometimes how much throat effort it could take to get out a burp. So to like try to prolong that burp for like I don't know 5 minutes, I just feel like it would turn into an Exorcist devilish scream, and then you would die. I don't know. I just like, and then you just die. That's just my thought.
Okay.
I don't know. These
Like,
are the
I
thoughts of an anxious black
don't.
man.
But if you summon Satan from a burp, I'm in heaven at that point. I'm going to just laugh along with you.
The burp does. I mean, the burp does sound kind of similar to a satanic throaty scream if you think about it.
You know what? It does. I've heard some good burps, and they do sound like some death metal.
It's basically a falsetto burp, the satanic scream, and then you the burp like that's more baritone. And
John, were you secretly in a death metal band?
I wish that would have been a great way to get all the aggression out, but nope. Alas, I've only listened to it. I've only listened to it to prepare for a lead role in a mass shooting production back in high school. That was the only time that I associated myself with death metal. Other than that, no, never been a part of anything death metal.
Okay, okay. It's understandable. I listen to it every day, but yeah.
You and I find that hard to believe because you come off as such like a sweet, inviting, funny, bright person. So either you just are fascinated by the aggressiveness of it, or there's some aggression in you that you just need to let out through death metal.
Sometimes you just gotta let it out. Like, I love death metal because when I'm feeling bad or angry, I just scream in my car and punch the steering wheel as I drive. People think I'm literally insane, but I'm getting it out and it feels good. And then some death metal, I'm not gonna lie, just sounds really good to me.
Yeah, I buy that. My closest thing is one of the many music genres I listen to on the Sirius XM app is punk rock. And punk rock will either make me upbeat or anxious as hell because it's just so fast and it's just so screamy and a lot of things are happening. And especially when you're door dashing like we do full time, when you're either impatient about a bad order or a cheap order or traffic or whatever, like punk rock can put you over the edge.
You see, he was running like, give me my Wendy.
Exactly. When Carl becomes a hypocrite in this scene by being annoyed at Charlie's boasting that he's going to be the greatest dancer at the contest, and then he said he's going to wipe the floor with him. Did you see Reginald sweating? He was sweating throughout this scene. He like the exercise that he apparently needs as a supposedly fat man. Like I guess he's just cutting those calories because I was even seeing sweat on the back of his shirt in addition to his forehead. He was putting in the work.
This was a sweaty episode for Carl. And when I saw he had the side fat sweat, I was like, ooh, I know you're hot. When I get that sweat, I am burning up.
Yeah, yeah. And, now that I think about it, he's entering the scene mad as hell. He ends it aggressively, telling and physically demonstrating to Harriet that the Winslows are going to show the Carnellis how to rumba. Like, he does a lot. And yeah, I'm just wondering if he was sweating this much in rehearsal or he was just kind of like passively walking it through in rehearsal. And then when he was doing it in front of the live audience, he just suddenly realized like, oh crap, I'm putting in a lot of work here. But yeah, I mean, props to him. I mean, I enjoyed it. I saw that he was putting in the work to make this scene great. So props to him.
Yeah, this was a fantastic scene. Carl really took this scene home. This was probably my favorite scene with Carl the entire episode.
Yeah. Any other thoughts you have about this scene?
Not on this one, except for when Carl screams Rachel. I just thought that was a funny moment.
I feel like that was a callback. I feel like Carl did that I feel like he did that last season. Was that when Rachel was the third wheel and Carl was trying to get rid. Yeah, Rachel. Like, yeah, I think he did that before.
When he was trying to get her to come to the phone, I think when Alan called.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, because I was just getting a lot of deja vu when Carl gave the Rachel yell in that scene. All right, we go to scene 3 in the living room. Carl and Harriet's big rehearsal for the dance contest. What are your thoughts about this scene?
I thought it was great. It was fun. That stage is massive. It's a massive stage. When we got this pulled out shot and the carpets rolled back, I
Yep.
was like, geez, that thing is huge. But it was really good. I love watching them dance. I don't know what the dance was that they were doing, but I thought it was the cutest little thing.
So so first of all, I agree with you about the stage. It was very clear that when they pulled the couch back to make room for the Winslows to dance, it was like, whoa, okay, like this living room just became 10 times bigger than I thought. Um, and Carl and Harriet in rehearsing for the contest, they're whatever they're dancing to, it's like a 30s swing music in the background. And I'm like, wait a minute. I thought we were going for Latin. I thought we were going for like the la rumba or the boom bomba or the like it just seemed like we were going for a Latin American Mexican salsa thing, and all of a sudden we're just doing good old fashioned white jazzy America swing dance. So I'm confused about the theme now.
Me too. I assumed they were going to something that was going to be more Latin themed because they said they were going to do the rumba. But now I'm like, okay, I guess we're just doing regular folksy dance.
It was odd to me. Did Carl and Harriet look like a walking gender reveal party to you? Like Carl had his blue sweatsuit. Harriet had Harriet had a purple pinkish sort of sweatsuit. She had heels on. She had heels on. Um,
No, John, nah, those are not heels. Those are sacrilegious. And I hate every time Harriet puts on that kitten heel shoe. Ugh.
I mean, look, she technically does have to wear heels the night of the dance contest, so she's preparing.
That sacrilegious shoe that she had on her foot needs to be burned. I don't know why they put her in that. That they should have given her a flat sneaker.
But is it a sweatsuit though that she's wearing with those heels? Like it seems very light to be a sweatsuit. It's like sort of like it's like a very light skim milk tracksuit. That's what I think it is.
It kind of looks like a velour. Like it looks like a very light velour tracksuit. Because
Okay.
once they zoom in on Carl, oh, I think it's actually terry cloth. That's the thing I was thinking of. It may be made of terry cloth, which is really light, but has that like sweatsuitish look to it.
Interesting. We'll investigate more as we go. Now, I forgot to mention that my main course actually is my confusion on whether we're going for a Latin theme or a 30s swing theme. So that's to be established. That's my main course. Um, and again, I got to give props to Reginald. I mean, this guy, for a supposedly fat guy who doesn't move much and eats donuts, he is really putting in the work to this dance. I mean, the studio audience is clapping along to the music. It's just fantastic. Carl and Harriet, the chemistry, like it's bona fide, but especially Reginald, man, he is really putting in the legwork, the arm work. He's just doing everything.
Dancing with the Stars all over. It was so good. The dance I watched a few times because I just thought it was fun and they look like they're having fun.
Yeah, if you are having fun, the audience is having fun along with you. I mean, Reginald is swaying those hips. He's rolling his head back. He's, doing motions with his hands. I mean, I couldn't keep up with the fantastic choreography that he was pulling off. Why was Rachel dressed from head to toe like an 80s aerobic instructor as if she was participating in this dance contest? It was really weird.
So I think the implication is that Rachel was the one who taught them the dance.
Okay.
But like you, I'm like, why does she look like she's been working out and she just walked home and came in into a dance?
Now, may I say, the heels that she wears, that seems more appropriate to her outfit than Harriet's outfit, right? Because that's like the classic 80s aerobic thing, right?
Yes. Now Rachel's heels are still ugly, but they fit her outfit. It's still an ugly heel.
All right, fair enough. I have more fashion notes. I felt like Laura had a fucking Lion King jungle on her shirt. There was so much like colorful African jungle flower pattern going on. It was almost overwhelming.
Laura's shirt was loud. It was the loudest thing in the scene. And I, like you, I thought jungle or she was on like a vacation and this was her vacation shirt. And I'm like,
Mhm.
what did they put her in?
I did like. What did you think about Judy's fashion? I thought it was fascinating to look at. She had like a yellow shirt, I think white and blue polka dotted capri spandex. Is that what you call it? Capri spandex.
Hmm.
Yellow
She
sock.
like a she had like a very like school kid outfit. Like I thought it was cute. I thought it would be something that I would see somebody wearing today, honestly.
Yeah, yeah. And she had yellow socks. She had white tennis shoes. Um, she did pretty well with that. So props to Judy. And here we go. I'm curious about your thoughts on the whole back pain thing because it's pretty much a callback to first season when Carl was doing the mashed potato dance with his kids at that cold open, and he threw out his back there. He does the same thing here. Um, and quite not surprising because he's somewhat of middle age, and the dancing he was doing, that's like the dancing that you should only do if you're like in your 20s. He throws his back out from not actually no, not from the dancing, from bowing. That's actually the funny thing, from bowing. So the Carl and Harriet, they do the dance and then they're done. The family in the room bows. The studio audience applauds. The family in the room applauds them. The studio audience also applauds. Carl and Harriet bows, and then that's where Carl throws out the old back. And I think that either he needs to see a doctor about this broken back that he's had before, or acknowledge that he's not fit to dance like he just did anymore.
I feel very seen. This is very relatable. I was doing a DoorDash and got out the car and extremely hurt my back. It did not feel. I feel like I threw my back out just like Carl getting on the car. I was hunched over driving the rest of the day. So I feel seen. I thought it was hilarious
Yeah.
the way Carl was bowing. And then when he gets upset that he can't do the contest and he jumps up and goes back down, I scream. The physical humor was hilarious.
God, you're talking about the yeah, I think you're talking about when Harriet is like, Carl, like you throw out your back, you can't do this, you can't be in the contest, and he's like, oh, 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 like he can't, oh, ow, gets up, goes back down, no, oh, oh. Yeah, it was classic. I definitely know what you're talking about. I like Judy, but I thought she just gave a stupid line. She comes up to her dad, and she was like, "Daddy, are you okay?" Like after he's clearly been shown to thrown his back out and be in excruciating pain.
She gives that little kid line where it's like, oh, you are lucky you're my child.
Otherwise, you're just a dumbass stating the obvious. Yeah. Anyway, when Rachel asks Carl if there's anything she can get for him, and he exclaims in pain, "My gun!" I was like, that's a little dramatic, my guy. Like, you're not a disabled horse. You'll be okay.
This is the writing in this episode that I love. When Carl gets set down on the couch and says, my gun, I screamed because I was like, oh, this is such a little funny, dark humor tidbit just shoved in there. And the audience loved it.
On my back. I want to enter this dance contest, but shoot me now. That'll make it worse, Carl.
Oh, in this scene, did Eddie have on his polka dot shirt?
God, the fucking weird black spotted shirt. I think that's not until the next scene. Uh, Definitely curious about your thoughts about that. And again, we have stupid questions in this present scene. Laura asking, "Dad, can he straighten up at all? I mean, he's hunched over in pain. He cries out at the slightest touch. Do you think he can straighten up, Laura?" No.
Laura did not read the room for that question.
Um, oh, Reginald is not being consistent here. So he sits on the couch for a little bit, and then he gets back up to get ready for the doctor's visit with the physical assistance of his family. I don't think he's as hunched over getting up from the couch as he was prior.
He's not. He's standing almost fully straight the entire time. But now instead of his back hurting, you notice in the scene he's favoring his arm like he just had a stroke. So I'm like, what is the injury here that we're doing?
I didn't pick that up. Oh my God, that's awesome. Now, we do have a fashion note about Eddie in the beginning of the next scene, but actually, I have a fashion note for Eddie as well in the last moments of this scene. I felt like he was having a poo-poo smear pattern on his jeans. What was that? It felt like it's like something that horse riders have on their pants, right?
So it's a suede inlay in the jeans. I had a pair of jeans like that, and I actually loved it. I was like, ooh, this is a cute outfit on Eddie.
Is that a thing still now, or is that like in the past?
I haven't seen anybody wear that or anything like that recently. It may come back, but I haven't seen it.
Okay. All right. So scene 4 in the living room. Now give me your thoughts about this yellow brownish button down with black spots that Eddie has.
So I bought something very similar on Amazon. I found it to be very cute. This is probably my favorite outfit on Eddie the entire series that we've seen so far. I freaking love it. I thought it was super cute.
I thought it was rather very large on him. I mean, the sleeves they were like almost at the wrist. He gave me cheetah or leopard vibes with that. He just looked like an animal in the wild with that shirt.
I love like the 90s because animal prints were big.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna get an animal print with something, and I am that person. My normal size that I wear in a large is a hoodie is large. When I buy a hoodie, I buy a 3X because I love things to be oversized. So the oversized shirt combo with this very tight fitted pant, I just was like, oh, I'm in heaven. This is a cute outfit.
I love that. Oh, what else did you like about this scene?
Another thing that I did love in this scene here, Carl hanging from the door.
Yeah. My dessert. My dessert. That first reveal, that's my dessert.
Okay, so we totally relate on this because that is one of my desserts.
Yep. Yep. The moment where we like the transition from just seeing Eddie go down the stairs to Eddie walking over to Carl, and then it's revealed that Carl is just hanging on the kitchen swinging door. You know what he reminds me of? You know those parents that like strap their babies to their back like a backpack? Like that's exactly what Carl looked like when he was hanging on that kitchen swinging door. Is it necessary to have his chin strapped back like that? I feel like the chin has nothing to do with the healing of the back.
They've got to align the spine. You got to get everything nice and aligned. Your chin position has a lot to do with your spine.
I did not know that. Interesting. That is a bit of good scientific knowledge, Andrew Vandertunt. I appreciate that. What was Laura wearing in this scene? It gave me like Janet Jackson, Michael Jackson vibes. Like Janet Jackson and Michael Jackson. Like I felt like Janet Jackson in one of her like early 80s videos, maybe Rhythm Nation or something like that. She had like a very I don't know what you call it, like a kind of like a girl cadet kind of outfit, like a soldiery cute outfit. And Michael Jackson was wearing like soldiery cute outfits as well with like certain shoulder pads during his 80s peak. I don't know if you can quite define that for me, but that's what I was
Yeah,
getting.
I think you did it perfectly because shoulder pads were the big thing.
Yeah.
And for Laura's outfit, I wrote in my notes that she's dressed like a Miss Frizzle modern version.
Hmm.
Because like I loved like the outfit, like it was cute. It had like little cars or stuff on it. I'm like, this is a cute little outfit for Laura.
Yeah, it is. I loved her line to Carl. I thought it was just perfectly snarky. Want us to hang you out on the porch so you can get some sun? I just,
Okay,
it was the best.
that is my ultimate dessert. If you notice, y'all, I have only had desserts this episode. This
Good
is
episode.
another dessert where I think it's the funniest line delivered in the entire episode.
Is it?
When Laura turns to Carl and says that, I just laughed. It was so good and she did it so well.
Yeah, yeah. So far, a slight spoiler to my delicious stars. This episode better than last episode. I loved this episode.
Ooh.
Yes, a little spoiler. So Laura and Eddie eventually exit, and Carl relievingly says, "Oh, finally some peace." And then Steve walks in from the other side of the swinging kitchen door with, anybody home? Great physical comedy here with that swinging door swinging back and forth as Carl cries out and tries to choke Steve as that swinging door just keeps going back and forth. And I gotta be honest, did you expect that entrance from Urkel? I did not, because we have not seen Urkel since the cold open. He has been kind of a muted presence throughout this entire episode.
I didn't expect it, and I know I can be critical of episodes. This is one of those moments where I'm going to be very critical. I was actually hoping we weren't going to have Urkel.
All right.
I was hoping we weren't because the episode was going so good already, and he wasn't involved at all.
I was definitely quite relieved that this was a good episode and Urkel did not have to be a big central part of it to make it a great episode. So I'm with you on that. Um, Initially, I was asking what the hell book Steve was holding, but he eventually reveals it to be an Encyclopedia Britannica, which my dad had plenty of in our basement library back in the old days in Connecticut. I don't know if you had Britannicas back at your house.
If you want to know more about the world, call 1-800 Encyclopedia. We had all of them.
I never saw the commercials or heard the commercials, but I just remember those. Yeah, no, I just remember just seeing those big ass black books in our basement library and always wondering, what the hell am I going to find out when I open those books?
I don't know what cartoon block you grew up watching. If you watched like Saturday morning cartoons,
Yeah.
but if you watched Fox, always, at least when I was growing up, at least two Encyclopedia Britannica commercials every episode of whatever show you're watching.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I definitely watch the Fox Kids Saturday morning, weekday afternoons. I mean, don't get me started. You know, the Digimon, the Power Rangers, the Batman the Animated Series. But no, I never caught those commercials. So I'll have to YouTube those and see what I can find from them. Oh, and then of course Steve gets a joke in just perfectly at Carl's expense. Hey, Carl, what are you doing? Just hanging around? Yep, and a snorty laugh.
I would just want to choke him so bad.
If I was Carl, again, if I was Carl, but as an outsider looking in, I'm like, you know what? I'm enjoying this too much.
Yes, as an outsider, I'm going to watch this torture. And I love that Steve is like, I'm going to read you from page 1 to page 2000 of this first volume.
You know what? So you already mentioned your favorite line from Laura in this entire episode. I'm gonna say my favorite line. This is another part of my dessert when Carl aggressively asks what Steve wants, and Steve just casually is like, "World peace," but I'm here to ease your plight. I was like, wait, oh, that just came out of nowhere. The fact that it just like where this world peace was just random, unexpected, like has nothing to do with anything. It was great, and also, you know, I got an education out of it because I didn't know what plight meant, and uh, the internet tells me it's a dangerous, difficult, or otherwise unfortunate situation.
It truly is. You face a plight every day you walk out your front door.
Carl's doctor recommends that he hangs by that swinging door for 4 hours a day for 10 days. What do you think about that? I felt like that was a rather dramatic prescription.
I mean, if you got to be in that often, I like get this man a back brace. Does he need surgery? Like that seems intense for that time period.
I was looking online, just a simple thing for Microsoft Bing. I typed in how to heal a wrenched back, and they include bulletin points like icing your back to reduce pain and swelling as soon as you injure yourself, applying heat to your back but only after 2 to 3 days of icing it first, taking painkillers or other drugs, use support, I guess, from family members, and finally, get physical therapy to build up strength if your doctor recommends this. Would this hanging on the kitchen swinging door count as physical therapy?
You know what? Possibly. Because the thing that I was thinking, I didn't look it up, but I'm assuming that's a decompression device for his back. So, like, I guess like decompressing your spine can help it heal better.
Possibly. I don't know. Any other thoughts you had about this scene?
I just want one of those. I want to hang from a door.
That sounds very suicidal, Andrew. I'm concerned about you right now.
No, no self-unaliving is gonna happen. I just
Okay.
love swinging on things.
Okay. I just want to make sure. Just want to make sure you're okay. Scene 5. We are in O'Leary's ballroom. Here we go. The first of, I think, two or three. Actually, you know what? I think the rest of the episode is in O'Leary's ballroom, if I'm not mistaken.
It is. The rest of it takes there, and this is again where I got blurry on the scenes because there's a
Yeah.
couple of fade outs that happen. So I'm like, did it count as a scene or not? But we stay here the rest of the episode.
Yeah. So any thoughts as we get introduced to the Carnellis and their dance number?
Very interesting dance number. The woman who plays the wife, she has this like deer in the headlight look the entire time she's on camera.
Helen/Ellen. Yeah, yeah, I guess the writer of this episode, they just set her up as like just the ditzy blonde who doesn't have much to say, who just kind of follows along her husband's orders. I don't like it personally. It definitely makes Charlie look even more like a dick. Um, they're dancing, the Carnellis, they're dancing to this very 30s jazzy polka. That's the best way I can describe it. Carl and Harriet dressed up to the nines. They're looking at them in jealous disgust. Um, just even more stresses the confusion of like, what are we doing here? Are we doing the rumba? Are we doing the lambada? Or are we doing this? Who knows?
There's a lot happening in the scene. Can we just talk about Harriet Winslow's inauguration gown? It was beautiful. She came to this inauguration to steal the show. That red was beautiful.
It was great. I mean, Carl cleaned up very nicely with his tuxedo, but yes, Harriet with her shoulderless red dress with a pearl necklace. Did her shoulders and neck seem skinnier to you?
Yeah.
Did Jo Marie just lose a little bit of weight in a short span of time, or has she always looked that way, but we've never seen it because she's always have more covered clothing?
We've never seen her with a bare neckline. So to see that much of her neckline and then to actually see her collarbone, it made everything look more tight. Everything else she wears is kind of bulky up top. So it was nice to see her with like the little slim down. The rose detail on the sleeve kind of helped balance everything out, but it did look like her face was smaller.
Oh, yeah. Um, so going back to the Carnelli dance, very show-offy, just extremely like braggadocio. But I did find it amusing the way that short Charlie Connelly was resting his head on the chest of his very tall wife. It reminds me of like some scene from the Disney movie The Aristocats. Yeah, The Aristocats. I felt like there was a scene like that where a very short person was dancing and resting their head like that on a very tall person.
Ooh, and I've never seen the Aristocats, so I have to see this.
But you have to. It's a great movie. Sure, because it's Disney and they made it in like the 50s. Some of it doesn't date well to this day. I think there's a Siamese cat musical number
Oh
in a
no.
very offensive accent. It thinking about it, it's funny still to me, but for people who live in that area, they probably wouldn't find it so funny. So a little problematic on that front, but other than that, I mean, I think it's a great movie. So I highly, highly recommend it. Did you notice that when we get to like Laura, Eddie, and Steve's table, we get some intense foreshadowing? So Laura notices that Steve is like dancing along to the jazzy music, and she's asking if he likes it, and he's like, "Nah, I'm more of a polka kind of guy." I think that's the first time that we hear of Steve's interest in polka, or not?
Yes, yes, I think that is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
he's never labeled that he likes polka. Oh my God, he just broke our polka cherry.
Yes, he did. Our polka virginity has been unwrapped like a nice sandwich.
Now, did you have a, I have the question, why is Steve here?
I did not, but you make a very good point. He really did not need to be there. He clearly was just there as like the occasional comedic relief if needed. But yeah, if you took him out, the scene would have still worked perfectly. Yeah.
It would have, and my problem I had with it, Judy is in the first scene when they're talking about selling tickets to this dance. So it was implied that Judy was going to be there, and Judy wasn't there.
She was there later on. No, she wasn't
I
there.
didn't see her in the beginning scenes. I don't see her. Maybe you have to watch it again. I did not see her in the beginning scenes of the actual dance. I saw Laura, Steve, and Eddie. Was she there and just didn't say anything the whole time?
I mean, I remember her being there because she had a very notable white dress. It was like literally like a white dress that a little black girl would wear to church during a wedding. It had the puffy sleeves. She was there in the end for sure. I don't remember her much in this scene unless it comes up in my notes soon. But yeah, she's definitely eventually she does come up in the ballroom. She's not featured as she should, but yeah, she's there. She's there for sure.
She had to catch the bus.
The bus to Lonesome Town reference. I think Steve
I
said
still
that to Carl in the last scene. Like, it's something about like, oh, I'm giving you bus tickets away from Lonesome Town.
think Steve is a genius. Genius, and I see what you did there.
And the Carnellis and the Winslows, they do their passive aggressive chit chat after the Carnellis do their dance. Do you find it very weird for Charlie to just push his wife toward Harriet as he was doing his passive aggressive chit chat with Carl? I was like, she's a human. Hello.
If I could share my screen with you, you would see in bold red letters in my notes, I put, why the hell did he push her?
Yeah, it was kind of odd. Some weird domestic situation probably happening in the Carnelli household. And then we get Carl and Charlie with their wives standing right next to them. They're just objectifying their wives by being like, oh, no, my wife's the prettiest. No, my wife's the prettiest. No, your wife's not as pretty as my wife.
This is what I imagine straight men do all the time. This is all I imagine.
It's sad. I mean, look, I'm a straight man, and this is part of the reason why I have more female friends than male friends. Yeah, I mean, straight men, we're not the most bright guys. So sorry about that, Andrew.
It's okay. Gay men aren't that much brighter either.
Depending. I mean, you are a very bright guy. You're an example of a very bright guy. Um, have I met some mean gay guys? Sure, I have. But I've also met some very funny bright guys, such as yourself.
Thank you. The mean gays just probably didn't eat that day.
I guess. Yeah. So Charlie he just aggressively pulls his wife back to him, and they walk away after that whole conversation with the Winslows as if she wasn't a human. The pushing and the pulling away. I mean, it just was hard to like this character. He just was treating his wife like she's just some toy that he could use for just this moment tonight and then just throw away.
Yeah, very disgusting. He's a chauvinist, as they would say in the show. And I don't like it. He really treated her like she was just a piece of property.
Yeah. All right, fine. What did you think about Little Richie? I know you have nothing but bright things to say about Little Richie because this is the moment where the Master of Ceremonies, he announces Richie as the person who has sold the most dance contest tickets. Um, I don't know how Richie came to be that, although Laura kind of explains it later on. I initially thought that he was like, forced into using his like adorable child thing on classmates at school. What were your thoughts in the beginning of this?
I love that Richie got announced. And then when he got announced and came out, he did his little dance and his little moonwalk. I screamed. It was the cutest thing ever.
Got to be honest, it's my junk food. I don't charm that easily when it comes to Little Richie. There are moments where it's warranted, and this moment it was just like, all right, here's just a random piece of like, aw, that's forced upon us. So he's wearing this expensive all white tux with the top hat, pulling a Michael Jackson on the dance floor. He's got the moonwalk down. He's got the hip thrust. Despite the whole night being a 30s jazzy polka theme. So again, we're just confusing our music themes here. And then he gets an award for selling tickets. What is a 5-year-old kid gonna do with this physical award? I have no idea. Um, I think that there are natural cute child actor moments and forced cute child actor moments. To me, this just came out of nowhere, and I was in charm.
I can see why you weren't charmed. I can see why. Looking at the scene objectively, cuteness aside, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, y'all just needed to like fill up 30 more seconds for your time slot. I get why you put this here because there's no substance to it. It just kind of comes out of nowhere. But what I love about it is not only one, the MC, he's amazing. And I feel like I've seen him in other things, and his little snarky comments just made it funnier.
Yeah.
And then we get little Richie dancing right after that. I was like, okay, this little snippet here was really good.
Okay. All right. All right. I'll give you your Little Richie moment. I never want to poo-poo on anybody's parade. I'll give you that. So then we eventually find out like the basis behind Little Richie selling the most tickets. We go back to the table where Steve and Laura is, and Steve was asking Laura how the hell did Richie sell 137 tickets? And Laura's answer quite revealing. She was like, "Oh, I just put his arm in a sling and stood outside of Piggly Wiggly. He sold outside in less than an hour." Dare I say, I feel like this is the first time I've heard a child forcing a younger child into child labor like that.
Very smart move, Laura. Very smart move. I love her for it. I thought it was funny. It was a well thought out joke, and it was hilarious.
Might I say, it evokes Michael Jackson things to it, because if you think about it, Michael Jackson himself, as cute as he was when he was with the Jackson 5, when you hear about what he had to endure behind the scenes from his father, Joe Jackson, to get there, you kind of think, oh, God, I feel guilty for saying how cute he is.
I know. You feel so bad and so guilty. And then you hear Baby One More Chance, and you're like, it was worth it.
All right, Joe Jackson, those beatings, I'll give you that. They're warranted. Oh, boy. So Steve says, you have no shame, in response to her Little Richie child labor comment. And then he's just like, I love that in a woman. And he just rolls his eyes back in his head like some kind of creepy sexual ecstasy has taken place. So if I get this correctly, Andrew, I think Steve in the last episode, he was genuinely hurt by Laura aggressively not returning his feelings. And now in this episode, he is just all over her immorality and rejecting him. This little boy is finding his kinks quite early. He just loves that cynicism.
Is it a kink or is it Stockholm syndrome? That's what I'm kind of like. I'm like, Steve, are you becoming adept to this? And Laura is just becoming more desensitized. Is that what we have happening?
Can I ask what Stockholm syndrome means? I keep on forgetting.
So Stockholm syndrome is essentially you are a person who has been traumatized and or kidnapped or brainwashed by somebody, and then you go ahead and believe that this is normal and okay behavior. So you kind of relate to the person who is hurting you.
Got it. So this is like something that like an abusive domestic partner situation. Like that's something that would often happen in that, right?
Yeah, kind of. Stockholm syndrome kind of more is like for kidnapping victims where they relate to their kidnapper and develop emotional bond, but it feels along the same line.
Got it. All right. So Master of Ceremonies, he does his introduction to the Winslows, and it's funny because it's like, so give it up for Harriet Winslow and her lovely husband Carl. The joke being that Carl will not be the better dancer. Harriet will be the one picking up the slack.
The MC knew. He was so shady.
Mrs. Carnelli needs to start standing up for herself. She's being classy and clapping along with everyone else at the Winslow's introduction, and Charlie looks at her like, don't you dare. And I say, no, Charlie, let your wife root for other people. Come on. That's the classy thing to do.
He looked like he was going to cut her arm off if she clapped. Like, don't you dare support them.
Use your height to your advantage, Mrs. Carnelli. You can do it. You can stop that little beanbag of a short man.
Stretch him like a great girl.
There you go. Rachel coming up to Carl and Harriet in her white dress to exclaim that they've got this puppy locked up before they start dancing. And the Master of Ceremonies, going to Rachel like, oh, hey, you're pretty. Now get off my stage. I found it a random and unnecessary moment, but based on the way you're laughing and based on how I know you like the Master of Ceremonies, I take it that you love that moment.
I love it because, one, that is something I have done to people when I've been on stage with a microphone. I'm like, get off the stage right now. And I just find it to be hilarious when the MC for a show is like, I'm going to talk shit to this audience and they're still going to love me. It's a very drag, and I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, I like how MCs can stretch from that, like, boring traditional model of, like, hey, I'm just a nice vanilla fella that kind of keeps things rolling. No, if you can inject comedy, snark, personality into what could otherwise be a boring job, all praise to you.
Yes, you summed it up. That's exactly what I got from him. The MC is a standout in this episode for me.
Yeah. Now, stressing to my main course, I'm being led to believe that we're sticking with this 30s jazzy, polka, swingy, whatever as the theme here. But nope, once Carl and Harriet get to the dance floor, we're going to the rumba.
We get our
What the heck was that dance rehearsal at the house for?
Maybe it was like their Olympics. They had a warm-up heat, and then they're like, okay, this is the practice dance. Now let's get to the real dance.
I don't know. Sorry, I interrupted you. Were you saying something earlier?
No, I was just agreeing with you. I was like, wait, why are they doing this dance if that's not what they practice?
Yeah. But I will say that I could watch Carl and Harriet rumba all day. I don't know about you. I thought they were just killing it in this scene. And unlike the Carnellis, it was much more concise.
It was more concise. They actually looked like they were having fun. The Carnellis, I thought they were going to kick each other because they just seemed so out of sync. But Harriet and Carl, they ate up this dance. I feel like it was better than the first dance we saw.
Much better. And I think you're referring to like the Carnellis when like the wife was like, flipping her leg over the husband's head in that 30s jazzy swing way. Charlie's a dick, so if he died that night, I wouldn't have been sorry for him.
I wouldn't have felt sorry for him either. I would have been like, oh, he got what he deserved.
Yeah. Any other thoughts about this scene before we go on to part 2 of O'Leary's ballroom?
No, that is it for me in this scene.
Yeah. What did you think about part 2 of O'Leary's ballroom, where we get the polka dancers?
We get our polka dancers who look so freaking cute in their little outfit, and Steve just having a fun time to the music I love.
Yeah, his happy energy was just infectious. I was confused personally by everyone else's boredom because this is very upbeat polka. Like, you could be disgusted or confused by it, but to be bored by it suggests that you're like looking at slow dance bluegrass instead of upbeat polka.
I mean, you've got to like polka. Polka is a very specific type of music. And if you don't like it, you're gonna be bored. You're gonna be like, whoa, what am I here for right now?
It's not something I would listen to on a ride home, but if it just like randomly sprouts on me on television, I'm like, yeah, I can vibe with this. This seems very cheery and uppity. What did you think about this crowd not giving this polka couple at least a polite round of applause? Steve was the only one that audibly and like cheerfully applauded them. I thought the crowd was so rude. I'm like, you know what? You may not have liked the music or whatever. That's fine, but at least be polite and clap for their efforts like the other two couples.
So I had a very bad joke here for this because
Ooh.
it's very noticeable. It's very noticeable that the crowd is not engaged. Not even the studio audience is engaged with what is happening with these polka dancers. And I'm like, okay, well, they're at a police ball and maybe police don't like polka or something. And it was so weird. It was weirder than watching the dance scenes where they cut out the music and you just have people moving. So it was like noticeable that everybody felt uncomfortable in the scene except Steve trying to lighten the mood.
And I wish that Steve lightening the mood would have distracted me from those awful other people. But yeah, no, that deafening silence was like, come on. Like, those cute kids did not deserve that. And we find out that not only are they just cute kids, they're the police commissioner's kids, which is not Charlie Carnelli. Because a police captain is different from a police commissioner.
Yes.
But Charlie, we think it's not actually the police captain.
I don't think Charlie is the police captain because the captain, last time we saw the captain, was black.
Yeah. Well, the old guy that got charmed from the kids at the party episode. Yeah. And got himself all wired up and tied up and stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But, when it's confirmed that it's the police commissioner's kids from the Master of Ceremonies, that's when the crowd claps politely because, God forbid you insult the police commissioner's kids. You could get arrested.
I mean, you're a police officer at that point. They might do worse to you. You might have to work hooker duty.
Yep, you got to work hooker duty and eat expired bacon every day. I know. That is a very awful image that I just presented in your head. I apologize.
Yes, all I see is worms. Oh my God.
It's disgusting. Yeah. Now, when it's announced that the Winsleys, the Winsleys, it shouldn't be the Winsleys, the Winslows and the Carnellis, when it's announced by the Master of Ceremonies that they tied, I was insulted by that. I think that Carl and Harriet should have just been the easy winners.
Me too. Carl and Harriet obviously outdanced this other couple. And whenever I hear there's a tie, you're essentially calling me a bitch. You were like, why did you buy a ticket? You stole from me.
So you don't see it as like, I gave in as just as much effort as the other great dancers. You just think like, really? Like, you might as well just slap me and call me hoe bag.
Yeah, if everybody got a medal, why did I pay to come here?
Oh, God. This is where we see Judy. So we cut to a shot of Judy, Rachel, and Richie clapping at their table. Do you remember that moment?
Now I remember, yes. Okay.
Yeah. After the tie was announced. This is where Judy was wearing the white dress with the chunky sleeves that, again, personifies the little black girl going to church, a church wedding, that is. So then the Master of Ceremonies says the Winslows and Carnellis have to do the jitterbug to break the tie. I think, did Carl also do the jitterbug in the cold open of that first season episode with the kids?
Ooh, I think he did.
Yeah. Um, and then the moment that the Master of Ceremonies allows the Winslows and the Carnellis to bow to the crowd for their tie, I knew what was coming. I knew that Carl was going to break that back again. And I'm glad that he did. Not because I am looking for bad things to happen to Carl, but I was wondering if the back breaking was going to come back, like to haunt him. Because otherwise, the back breaking part of this episode would have been like junk food. Because if you think about it, Carl breaking his back, that being a big deal in like the middle of the episode, and then towards the end when he's at the dance contest, all of a sudden that's not an issue anymore and he's fine, that would have been pointless. But to have it come back around as sort of a karma thing, that was great. Uh-oh.
I don't feel the same way.
Oh, okay. Why not?
I don't feel that way because I feel like they forgot that Carl hurt his back and they kind of were like, oh shit, we have to write this in here, make him bow.
Oh.
Like it felt like, Carl, why would you do the exact same motion that landed you on your back for 10 days straight in a sling, as opposed to just doing something like a little bow, like a polite wave, something? So I was like, did they forget that he hurt his back and they just had to throw this in here?
I think Carl just exemplifies the stubborn dad who doesn't really think ahead. You know, he thinks like, oh, my back is healed, I'll be fine. I'm a stud. I'm a 20-year-old man. I could move again. But no, his age comes back to haunt him. That's what I got from that moment, at least. And then you get, of course, Carl being stubborn again. He's hunched over, broken back. Harriet is saying like, forget this. Like, let's just forfeit the rest of this contest. And then adorable idiot Steve comes in like, oh, attaboy, Carl, like in response to him stubbornly wanting to stay in the competition, and just gives him a pat on the back. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. I mean, I guess that's the only necessary part of Steve in this episode.
Yeah, Steve doesn't really serve too much of a purpose, but it was funny because, I expected it to come that he was going to slap Carl on the back. And I'm like, their energy just together, they play off each other very well. So it worked.
Yeah. And then we get a random fade out, which Family Matters does very well. We go to part 3, O'Leary's Ballroom, scene 7. This is where Charlie is getting the karma he deserves. What are your thoughts about this scene?
Okay, my thoughts about this scene start after the dancing, like after the injury, are my thoughts, because I was very upset about this.
Why? What happened?
I think it's bullshit that Harriet was like, Carl, you should be the bigger person, or Carl's gonna be the bigger person here. No, Carl didn't have to be the bigger person. This man hurt his ankle because Karma came back and looked him in the face, and it's his fault that his ankle got hurt. And Carl and Harriet technically won, so they didn't need to forfeit their win to make this guy feel better or to be the bigger man. I feel like we got cheated.
Your competitive gamer coming out in you. I like that. I like that.
Hell yeah. If you tell me I won, okay, thank you. That's all that will be coming out my mouth. I'm not about to sit here and be like, oh, we forgot the fun. No, I came here to win.
So let me recall the order of this scene, because it's been a few hours since I've watched the episode. So I love that Charlie, like he was teasing Carl about his bad back, and then he trips over a chair as he backs away, which hurts his ankle pretty badly. Wonderful. Charlie's been a dick. He deserved that. The Master of Ceremonies should have been aware of the surroundings, because I mean, look at the couples, look at the guys in this coupleship. They're not fit to dance, so he should have been like, all right, let's just call it a tie and go home, or make that hard decision. Just randomly pick who you thought was the better of the couples. Or I would have suggested the women dancing solo. I think that would have been a sight to see. A dance-off between Harriet and Ellen Cardini. No?
That would have been good. Ooh, that would have been really good. But John, we can't make the women fight to the death.
Oh, is that like backwards feminism?
We should have put the men out there. Like, okay, you're both injured, dance together. You'll be partners.
Yeah. But let's just talk about what a pathetic and awkward sight it was to see a hunched over, broken back Carl and a sprained ankle Charlie attempting to dance. They're crying out loud in pain. It was funny, but it was also like, this is what happens to the male ego. It just comes back to bite you.
It was the debate all over again. It was the debate all over again. That's all I saw. I was like, whoa, too soon.
Yeah, Trump and Biden arguing over who's better at golf. They're thinking that it's going to show who's better at golf, but nope, all we see is two old white men talking about an old white man's game. What
Back
fun.
in 1985.
Yep. But Ellen Carnelli, thank goodness for her, she calls in. She has the smarts to come in and call the dance off. She has the courage to speak up. Uh, the announcer, the referee, the master of ceremonies, whatever you want to call him, I thought he was just awful again because I felt like it shouldn't have to take Carl recommending that the contest be left as a tie for the master of ceremonies to realize that that's what it should have been done. You should have realized that a while ago. Um, so you don't agree with the commissioner's kids coming out as I agree with you. I agree with you. I mean, I thought that was unnecessary. I felt like it was better to just leave it at a tie. I mean, but you thought it was that it should have been left at like the Winslows or the Carnellis being chosen the winner, right?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as Miss Carnelli went over and was like, hey, we got to stop, boom, the Winslows won, we're done. They didn't have to say anything. And I did like the snarkiness of the MC because he kind of made the scene a little more funnier, where I'm like, okay, I get that we have to have like some kind of family moment here because this is a family show, but this isn't the family moment I think we should have had. I think we should have had a different family moment, not this.
Yeah. And Steve, I mean, I got to give Steve Urkel some props here. He's persistent with his polka interest. He comes up to the commissioner's kids to congratulate them on their win. And he's just stalking them out to their exit about, advice for how to enjoy polka. And if we want to know how Steve got his polka training, maybe we could detect it at this moment right here.
I think we got what happens. Polka's probably very inviting, and this was the moment that Steve's life changed forever.
Yeah. My junk food's coming up here. This is where the the master of ceremonies reluctantly invites the young people to come out and dance to MC Hammer's "You Can't Touch This" because they are the future.
I
It was weird.
agree. I
It,
agree.
it was so weird. Again, like Little Richie, it was just a forced moment that didn't match this otherwise elegant adult setting. Like either leave the kids at home, or if the kids are coming, hey, you guys got to put up with the jazzy swing and the polka. Like, sorry, this is not hip hop night. I again, in the tradition of Family Matters, not knowing how to effectively end an episode, I thought an effective ending would have been the funny walkout with Steve and the commissioner's kids, with Steve asking for polka advice. I thought it could have ended just there, but no, we go from this classy, elegant dance contest night to touch this, boom, 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 boom.
John, you are missing out on the most epic moment of this episode.
Oh God.
So good. So for anybody who goes back and watch this episode, John, if you go back and watch this episode, when all the kids come up to dance, there's this one white girl. She's got on this flower print dress, and she stands directly in the center of the scene. And when the music is on and everybody's dancing, she has this vacant stare on her face, like, why the hell am I up here? Like they told her in the last 30 seconds, get up on that stage, girl. And she's just swaying awkwardly. It is so weird, but it stuck out to me. She is there for 32 seconds on our screen, just swaying back and forth, looking like a zombie.
She doesn't know what to do. She doesn't know how to jam with the black folk.
Not at all. Everybody else is up there just dancing. She literally looks like she is terrified to move.
Yeah. Now I know MC Hammer, that song was big in 1990. Be honest, did you like it? I never liked it.
I didn't like it, but my mom gossiped about MC Hammer all the time, so that's what made me like the song.
Because he didn't know how to pay his taxes.
Yeah, he didn't know how to pay his money. At MC Hammer, I learned after 5 years how to pay taxes.
Yeah. MC Hammer, what classic case of the one-hit wonder. That's like, oh man, I got all this money and I will never run out of money. He just never knew how to manage it, invest it wisely, spend it wisely, and it just came back to bite him. Yeah, I just thought that you can't touch this. It just always seems very corny to me, so never got into it. So when I see it in Family Matters, it's just like makes it even more corny because Family Matters has enough corny in it as it is. So for them to be like, hey, this is our attempt to look cool, like I'm down with the Bobby Brown. Like, yeah, Bobby Brown is fucking awesome. But MC Hammer, you lost me with the parachute pants.
Is it cornier than Megan Thee Stallion's twerking for Kamala Harris?
I did not see that, but because I like Megan Thee Stallion's butt, I will love to see that.
Okay.
That's my response.
It's a valid response. It's a great butt, so I
It,
get it.
it's a straight man bias. I'm sorry. But what happened there? Was this on the White Women for Kamala Zoom call, or was this something else?
No, no, this was the rally in Georgia that she did. The White Women for Kamala Harris call. One, thank you, white women. You are doing the work and getting out there. But when I was like, wait, what? I was like, this has got to be Saturday Night Live. What are you talking about? White Women for Harris.
Can you imagine you go into a Zoom call, maybe it's a by accident, and you come across 100,000 white women? What would be your automatic response as a black man?
I am literally just going to say, don't call the cops. I did not touch them. I did not touch them. Do not call the cops. Please just let me go.
Oh my God. That's just intimidation to the extreme as people of color. My last point about this scene, when Harriet tells Carl how proud she is of his classy call for a tie that you disagree with, I understand that. And she wants to reward him with a banana split at home before he gets hung up on the door again. Um, as they have planned their way home, I guess all I was thinking of was like, oh, okay, Rachel being one of the only supposedly young people on the dance floor, she's in charge of taking the kids home. Like Rachel's an adult. I'm sure she can drive just fine, but it's Rachel, so I would be careful.
Rachel's going to be like, I'll take the kids home. And next thing you know, they end up in Sri Lanka. I'm not trusting her that with my kids.
Yeah, Sri Lanka to talk to someone about a lemon cream tart business that she wants to start up again at the home. God. Anything else you have for this scene?
It's for me in the scene.
No Mama Winslow at all in this episode. Any thoughts on that?
That actually is going to impact my rating.
Ooh.
It really impacts my rating because the fact that Mama Winslow wasn't here, I thought she would have been amazing to go cut up the dance floor.
She doesn't factor at all in my rating. I love her, but similar to a feeling that you had in a first season episode recap, sometimes Mama Winslow doesn't appear in an episode and it doesn't affect it. Like it just is like, meh, okay, cool. Like the episode ran smoothly, it ran just fine. I honestly don't know what she could have contributed aside from her usual, sassy, snarky, deadpan lines, which are great, but I think I was just fine without a Mama Winslow in this episode. Go ahead and explain our delicious stars how they work.
All right. So our stars, and I would go back to the top of my notes.
Yeah.
So I feel very, very in touch with technology right now.
Ooh.
I am learning how to multi-screen things here.
Okay.
Okay. So our rating systems, 0 to 3 stars is what we go by. So 0 stars means don't watch this episode. It's a waste of your time. There was nothing good here. It wasn't enjoyable. 1 star is it's a very good episode. It's in its season. It's something that you would watch, even if you didn't think it was good. 2 stars. It's an excellent episode. It's worth taking the time to watch. You love it. You enjoyed it. You had a good time with it. 3 stars. It's exceptional. It's above everything. It's encompassing everything you love about the show, the 90s, the cast, the journey that you got to experience on it. That's our rating system.
There you go. What delicious star would you give this episode?
This episode gets a 1. It is a 1-star episode for me because I actually didn't hold on to any of the main story. All I had was my desserts here. So I had my cute Richie scene. The writing. Both of these people, was it 2 people who wrote this episode?
You know what? That's a very good question. Let me scroll all the way up 45 pages ago to the beginning of this thing. One person, Stephen Langford, wrote this episode.
Stephen Langford, you in your little snarky dark comedy that you've tucked in a couple of these lines here, made this a very enjoyable episode for me. Everything else, to be honest, I liked things, but I could go without watching this episode again. I don't think I would rewatch it again, to be honest.
Interesting. I thought we would have the same rating. I actually gave this a two-star rating.
Mhm.
I found this to be a fun episode that showed off Carl and Harriet's chemistry. Reginald's physical comedy chops. I mean, especially in that scene where he was literally sweating his ass off. That was great. Urkel gave me some classic lines, even though he really didn't need to be in this episode. The world peace line will go up there in the Hall of Fame with, "Are you wearing a bra?" Like, it's just the Hall of Fame of classic Urkel lines that we're getting in early era Family Matters. How he delivers them, especially, is what really makes it count. I mean, the only thing that prevents it from being a 3-star is just those random moments like the MC Hammer thing at the end and the what I thought was the forced Little Richie Michael Jackson moonwalk moment. If it weren't for those two moments, I'd give it a 3. But as it stands, I think, a pretty well medium done episode that I would recommend anybody watch if they want some good Family Matters fun.
Yeah, I mean, if you're like me and you just want some sweets, you want sweet moments, watch this episode. There's some moments, again, I just could not stop smiling at Little Richie. And I am just a sucker for just cute kids just being fun on camera. So when I see like this little child actor moment, I'm like, I love it. I wanted more. I'm still hungry.
And Little Richie, it seems like he doesn't really age that much over the course of 9 seasons. I'm trying to think of eventually when like 3J comes along, Little Richie seems like he looks the same, almost, maybe a little taller.
Forgot about 3J, the random adopted kid from the tough neighborhood. Oh my God, I forgot about him being added.
Yep, played by Orlando Brown, who is clearly doing very well right now. Don't get it. We shouldn't get started on Orlando Brown.
Hey, if you want something good with Orlando Brown to watch Bad Boys Club. I think is what it's called. You'll have
Yeah.
some fun.
I still don't understand why this episode is called Flashpants. I'm like looking on Microsoft Bing, define Flashpants, and all it gives me is Flashpants, live 80s cover band in Los Angeles, the Flashpants band. Flashpants are going strong by OC Weekly. So Flashpants is an 80s cover band dance reference that has nothing to do with this episode because we're bouncing between Latin and 30s jazzy swing polka.
The only thing that would give me Flash pants is that they're trying to do a play on Flash dance, and Rachel's outfit when they're practicing dancing is kind of a reference to one of the Flash dance outfits. That's
That could be
the
it.
only loose thing that I can try to tie it to.
That could be it. That could be it. Well, for you listening and watching us via video, we hope you enjoyed this season 2, episode 4 recap of Family Matters. Please subscribe, rate, review wherever you listen to podcasts. Questions, comments, concerns, feedback, email us, thedeliciousrecap@gmail.com. Follow The Delicious Recap on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, YouTube, Reddit. As Andrew said, like if you just type in The Delicious, we should come up at Delicious Recap, at The Delicious Recap. I mean, any way you want to search us, we should come up easily. Now, I should say for our Patreon, an easy way to find us, since I just updated the URL as we're recording this, patreon.com/delicious recap. Because one of our listeners did have a hard time looking us up by searching The Delicious Recap on Patreon. And I've listened to other podcasts, Andrew, where they just give the link full out. So I think this might be a Patreon issue that we can't control. So the best thing we can do is just give a URL that's easy to find. So patreon.com/delicious recap. This is something that we're going to talk about in our post-show chatter. But I totally forgot until like today and this date in August, that a benefit that we could be offering on our Patreon is access to our season 2 recaps and interviews early. So that's what we'll do. We're recording this on August 5th before the official free public September 30th launch. But a month earlier, like ideally the week of August 26th, if you are a Patreon member, hopefully a paid one, we will allow you to start season 2 with us earlier than the rest of the people that don't want to pay any money.
Oh, yeah. We'll love you long time. That's what's going to happen when you get on our Patreon. on all of the socials, please make sure that you do follow and subscribe to us if it has that option. It is a small button click for you, but it's very big for us.
Yes.
So if you can do that, and then get the Patreon too. You're getting stuff early. It's like getting brand new shoes before they release in the stores.
Yeah, imagine the Tickle Me Elmo that everybody wanted back in Christmas of like 1995, and you got it in February of 1995. How cool are you?
You know that you got a toy that somebody took a foot to the face for. That's what you got.
Oh boy. So, behind the scenes conversations, you'll also get that on our Patreon. Um, as we are recording this, I believe what we've been doing is what I like to call Patreon previews. Um, as we are currently in the summertime, as we're recording this, you'll see that behind the scenes conversations are being offered for free wherever you get your podcasts. But starting with our September 30th launch, that's when it'll be Patreon only. So we're giving you a taste for free, but eventually give us your money for it.
Yes. You get to, oh my God, we're doing it just like they did during the crack epidemic. You get your first hit free, and then after that, you're paying people.
Damn, I was gonna like relate it to like a streaming service giving a free trial for 3 months before it's start charging you, but sure, you want to get that crack for free just to try it out and see if it's good, and then you like it. All right, great. Here's $2,700 that you need to pay us for 3 pounds of crack. I don't know how crack works.
I don't know either. But now I'm curious to find out.
Are you curious to find out? Please, I hope you're not curious to find out because we need to be functioning, healthy people to do this podcast. I don't know if we could do it on crack.
I know I'm not gonna do the crack because like Whitney said, crack is whack. Okay? Crack is whack. We're not doing the crack. But scenarios play out in my head and I just see someone driving up in their car to like a drug dealer and they're like, can I get 3 pounds of crack?
Oh God. Can I get a truck full of cocaine? Just like, can you just back up a Brinker's truck of cocaine like right now? Also, the irony of you mentioning Whitney saying crack is whack when we knew how Whitney ended up, like that was just irony of ironies to me.
But it is whack, John. Crack is whack and we don't do it, okay? The only
We
thing we get high on over here is Steve Urkel.
we get high on Steve Urkel and human love.
Ooh, I like both of those.
There you go. How can people follow you, Andrew Vandertunt?
You can follow me. Wow, I'm sorry, my eye just got super irritated.
Yeah.
You can follow me on TikTok at AJ Vandertunt. If you just type in Vandertunt, which is Vandertunt, I will come right up for you. So all you got to do, you can interact with me on TikTok. You can interact with me through all of the social pages for the podcast. My Facebook is still up, but I don't interact with it. I apologize. It's just not for me. But if you want to get with me on the other bridge, I'm with you.
Very good. Our next episode recap, season 2, episode 5, The Crash Course. We will see you then. Andrew, can you take us out, please?
Yes, I will. Because guess what happened in Olympic Village today?
As we are recording this on Monday, August 5th, what happened?
I don't know, but I bet it was deliciousness.